Hi, we're back, everyone. Good to see you. Thanks for holding there on break real quick. We have results of the chat poll to see what color lip color Shirley comes back with. That'll be a grand reveal at the end of the interview. But first, like I just alluded to, we have an interview to do. And here this week, we have our new friend of the show, Sandra Mizumoto Posey, and who just had a great talk with us after we made her sim about makeup, as Shirley put on makeup for chat. And we had a very productive discussion. Very having a lot of fun there. But I think it's time for me to ask you some questions. Sandra, are you ready to get into this interview a little bit?
I am so scared because I have no idea what you're gonna ask me, but yeah.
Well,
Don't be frightened.
on that note, Shirley, you want to do the honors?
Sure, yeah. So
Don't make
so
me
Pause.
wait.
sleuth, noun.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in the to track or trail a person or a beast. Uh, uh, attested in the about 1872 to be attached to the idea of a detective, someone searching for something. um the and in modern eras there's been a rise of the detective fiction, um originally penned by Edgar Allan Poe, popularized by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle with his series Sherlock. um the idea of searching for something, the idea of finding that which was once hidden, um, is a time honored tradition, and one that we here at Folkwise carry on through our wonderful sleuthing team, who takes these skills to the digital age, um, by searching through our wonderful guests, internet stalking them, finding all these deep dark corners,
Oh my
uh,
god.
uh
So
collating
That is not what we do,
collating
Shirley.
folklorist
Nary a
collating
deep dark
questions.
corner.
so a folklorist as the detective, does that make this cozy?
Yeah, for sure. It's not like deep dark corners to find the beautifully cooling pie of our guests' knowledge. Um
I would just say something like, "Okay, no." Chat says, "Let them cook." Never mind. Let them cook. Go, Shirley.
so our folk wisest sleuths help collate these questions, help curate these questions, the art of curation, as mentioned before,
Awesome blush.
to
I like how they remain named and hidden. It makes them all the more threatening.
yeah, this,
They're only threatening when Shirley says it.
bringing forth into the light these pearls of wisdom that only our wonderful and beautiful guests can provide. So if you hear a question that you enjoy, don't thank us, the faces on the screen. Thank the sleuths, who work tirelessly in the background. Yeah.
um, thanks, Shirley. No, I'm giving you a hard time. Thank you, Shirley. I can tell you had a lot of fun with that. Sandra, I swear there are way less dark corners than they're making it out to seem. But that is to say, the on air people aren't the ones writing the questions. There, that was beautiful. Look at that, Shirley. So bad at art said that was great. You had a Webster's dictionary in there. It was a little. It was almost like a toast at a wedding for a second.
Oh, you should have heard me last week.
Oh my god. Glad I didn't. Okay, that out of the way, Sandra. I think it's time to get into the interview for real. You ready?
I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
Okay, so I think first question, as we tend to start kind of broad, but we know it's something you've written about. So, Sandra, what critical skills do folklorists and scholars gain by reflecting on the transformative moments that occur while we do research?
What? Say that again?
What kind of critical skills do folklorists and the scholars of the like gain um after we're like reflecting on transformative moments from our research? And I guess maybe a follow up is uh how do they help like a cross cultural understanding to support social justice?
Hmm.
Mm.
So I am assuming you are pulling from my article, um, How Can Folklore Change the World?
I believe that is what they were pulling from. Yes.
Yes. So basically, to give you a little background, I used to teach pre service teachers, and I would have them do a folk ethnography on some phenomenon or behavior that they absolutely despise. So this ranged
Ooh.
from someone who was taught that cursing was really bad to someone who hated people who wore saggy pants, um, to nudist beaches. And what happens through the process of exposure to anything, and then this goes back to my folklore lineage, Michael Owen Jones, uh, is that once we immerse ourselves enough in something, our appreciation of it deepens, and we uh, learn the subtleties of it and the artistry of it and come to appreciate it. And why this is important to pre-service teachers is that they will encounter not just children but parents
Mm.
curse or wear saggy pants or maybe who go to nudist beaches. I don't know. Um, but what they found is, the person who did her project on cursing found that there was an artistry to cursing. That there were people that were very good and skilled in it, and that there was technique involved in it. And pretty much everyone who took part in one of these projects came to be able to appreciate the thing that they initially despised. um, which is good for when you're working, especially with populations that you are different generation or a different socioeconomic background
Hmm.
or different cultural background, to take a moment, stop, and rethink your judgments that you have about it. This work was about implicit bias before there was the term was being used um, more commonly.
Sure.
It's process that I found continues to happen to me as I teach. That when someone does a fieldwork project, and I'm sure both of you have experienced this as well. For example, I had um, students do project on furries, who are
Mm.
members of the furry community. Another student who did a project on BDSM puppy play.
Hmm.
Now, these are two things that from popular media, well, I hadn't even heard of puppy play to be honest. But I initially was like, huh? And once I read their motivations and their interviews with their friends about what it was and why they did it and why they appreciated it, it suddenly made sense to me, and I no longer have those uh, immediate negative judgments
Yeah.
about those communities and those behaviors and that sort of thing. So I think that answers your question. It's continued exposure to in a deep way we learn as ethnographers to really listen and pay attention,
Hmm.
that we come to have a greater flexibility and openness to diversity.
I think it does answer the question very well. I think I'd
Yeah.
also add there's kind of like a catchphrase or around these parts on this channel about like the idea of like folklorists being like enthusiasm enthusiasts, and I think your answer proves that sometimes you're enthusiastic about like things that you aren't, it's not like you start enthusiastic about something and then like and then just exhaust all the enthusiasm you have. Sometimes you start cold and warm up, and I think that's a very important distinction that you made.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, excellent. um so Sandra, you teach in a, I think broadly you'd call it like a gender studies department. I think it's is it called gender studies and sexualities? Is that what the department is called?
When I started, it was women's studies,
Mm-hmm.
and then it became gender, women's, and sexuality studies.
Gender, women's, and sexuality.
It's one of the only departments on campus that is both academic department and student services. So it's housed in what we call GITA, the Gender Institute for Teaching and Advocacy, and what
Hmm.
was formerly called the Institute for Women's Studies and Services. And we broadly provide services to the whole campus, but like to say that we serve the most marginalized and um, people with the most intersecting impressions on campus. And, we have, in addition to the classes we teach, we have a space for students to hang out. We have programming and snacks and a resource kind of food bank kind of thing. And, so
Yeah.
we serve a lot of different purposes for people who otherwise wouldn't find a home, especially we're a very odd campus. We are a downtown campus that houses 3 higher education institutions.
Mm-hmm.
Community College of Denver, Metropolitan State University of Denver, which is where I teach,
Yep.
and University of Colorado, Denver. And so, because it's such a big campus and it's not a unified culture, it's often very hard. And Metro, my institution, is an open access institution. So we get a wide range of preparation levels, skill levels, traditional, non traditional students, student parents. We're a Hispanic serving institution. Uh, so it can be hard for people to stick and find a home. So we're kind of one of those places on campus where if you feel like you don't belong, you can find a home.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And thanks for breaking it down like that. It looked like chat was really interested too. I guess with the idea of finding a home comes like the question I really want to ask is that um how do you sometimes like bridge the humanities gap, or like the sort of gap into other realms of the humanities, being a folklorist teaching in like gender, women's, and sexualities studies? How do you get from like your training over into the kind of teaching you're doing?
Well, for a long time, I was the only humanities person
Mm.
in the department. And there was a philosopher for a while, but then he left. And it was people with generally social science training and interests. So that's why I kind of saw my role as creating some new curriculum, because our general studies courses that we offered for the university as a whole and not our majors were generally in the social sciences category or the multicultural category. And I created a couple for the arts and humanities category. And we just had a search, and I'm hoping that the person we bring in is actually going to be someone who not only has a doctorate in gender studies, but is a performing artist. So I'm hoping that
Ooh.
creativity is going to be more of a presence in the department. Sometimes it's difficult to get some of the social scientists to understand exactly what it is that I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say that I've always been in interdisciplinary departments. Before being here, I was at Cal Poly Pomona in the interdisciplinary general education department. So I'm used to being in departments that are interdisciplinary. And technically, the folklore mythology program at UCLA was
Mm-hmm.
also an interdisciplinary program. So I'm more used to being in that space than not. And what I like about it is that I'm always learning something new. And there's always, if there's an area that I'm confused about, or it's an area of study I don't know, I can always walk across the hall and get my questions answered from a different lens. So I guess I don't bridge it in a way.
Yeah. Or I assumed it was going to be a gap and it's a hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's a little of both.
it's a little of both.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are obstacles. For example, our tenure and promotion guidelines say that you can count creative works, but creative works that are peer reviewed, and I've never been able to convince them that creative works are not peer reviewed. So sometimes there's confusions that you can't bridge, but
Yeah.
because they are not familiar with the field. But you know it's more it's more of something that is a benefit to me in terms of learning new things and broadening my knowledge base than it is a hindrance, I'd say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, excellent and excellent for you and great answer. I'd say on both accounts. And I know that Tuier in chat is chatting up a storm while you were asking that, and I also know that she's going to be a gender studies professor this fall, about to finish the PhD and move. So you've got friends in chat.
Oh yeah. The concept of a peer-reviewed creative work is intriguing to me as
Assistant
someone who went
professor.
through a creative writing program.
I actually, believe it or not, lucked into something that I submitted to a journal as a creative work. And the journal decided that it was scholarly enough that they needed to put it through peer review. So,
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
a creative work that was peer review.
Speaking of
Interesting.
speaking of your creative works, so you do a lot of creative works, as we're getting at. You do a lot of uh
These
you
days,
do
I
a
do
lot of
mostly creative work, and I'll tell you that
go for it.
the transition happened largely because I went to graduate school pre institutional review board.
Oh,
So
interesting.
we learned ethics as folklorists have developed them since the 1800s. But when I got my first job and the IRB was in place and it was staffed with social scientists and hard scientists people, they had different assumptions than we do as folklorists. We give credit where they automatically anonymize. We see data as emergent and coming out of relationship building, whereas they want the question determined ahead of time
Yeah.
and, researched the heck of ahead of time. And a bunch of things like that, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And
Oh yeah.
the lack of understanding that we were a discipline who had been working on our own set of ethics appropriate to our work for 100 years, and it was just as valid for the type of work we did as theirs was for them. And,
Hmm.
we weren't giving people syphilis, but
Yeah.
they were still holding us to the same standards, which I found really took the joy out of ethnography for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it took the spontaneity out of it because I'm used to deciding what I'm going to focus on out of what emerges from the conversation.
Yes.
And I'm not used to having to do the literature review before I've even met people that I'm going to be studying. Because how do I know what I'm going to be studying until I get to know them?
Exactly.
So it didn't make it was reverse logic to me. So eventually I pretty much gave up formal research and went to writing articles that were either pedagogical essays, which eventually started going through peer review, so I stopped that. And then I started going into more uh, memoir type writing, which I've started calling memory ethnography.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, so my work went from talking about other people to talking about myself. And boy, did I confuse the first IRB I asked, if I'm studying myself, do I have to go through human subjects review? Um, and then lately it's transitioned and I've done a lot more graphic work.
Yeah.
Uh, and I have a comic that runs in an independent college newspaper. And I have a graphic novel, a memoir manuscript that's unpublished, and I'm working on a second one. Um, and the article that I'm doing for this commemorative issue of Western Folklore is an illustrated article for Western Folklore. So it's kind of the illustration aspect is seeping into every aspect of my production.
Yeah. Well, so you set me up perfectly because I guess if you don't have like the IRB for your own like graphic autoethnography, if there isn't like a review board, how do you like self-select which life experiences you're gonna turn into like a kernel of observational wisdom in College Edge or any of your other works like that?
It it's whatever is preoccupying me at the time. My graphic memoir, um, I went on long-term disability for 5 years
Mm-hmm.
because I suffered from two emergency open heart surgeries and two strokes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, due to the toxic culture and workload of um, state teaching
Mm-hmm.
universities. And so my memoir basically processed that whole experience and what about higher ed had led me to having emergency open heart surgery when I was 50.
Yeah.
Um, and it ended up helps me to make sense of things. So as well as a memoir, it is a analysis of how higher education sort of fell off the ladder so far that it's creating an unhealthy work environment, whether you are an adjunct or a tenure line professor.
Mm-hmm.
And the budget cuts and, you know, lack of state support that contributed to all of that. So it's sort of a memoir slash call to action to reform higher education. Whether it gets published or not, or I eventually self publish it, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it ended up being. And my graphic novel that I'm working on now is even more genre uh, bending. It's what I call speculative graphic memoir because it's about me and it's rooted in my emotions and experience, but it's stuff that hasn't happened yet. Um,
Hmm.
so and and it's also a mythic retelling. It's called Me and You, YOU, Topia, uh, Demeter, Persephone, and cyborgs. And it's about the feelings that I'm going through as my daughter gets older,
Mm-hmm.
I get older,
Mm.
and trying to find investigating things like transhumanism and um, cyborgs and xenofeminism and things like that, biohacking to explore ways to live longer so that I can be around longer for her. And it's a fiction, obviously it's a fictional exploration, but at the same time, I'm taking the DNA tests, I'm taking all these supplements, I'm doing all the reading, I'm doing everything that I can possibly do. No, I just made a Sims character that's going to live on into my digital upload
Yeah.
eternity. Um, so it's a fictionalized thing, but it's rooted in very real feelings of the loss of my daughter, which are pretty profound and more. The Meter Persephone experience is more visceral and um just feel so biologically rooted and inevitable and painful that that's what's sort of consuming me, you know, currently. So I'm working through those feelings through this fictionalized solution.
Yeah. I know.
I feel this so hard.
Also, Shirley, I like was not looking at you, but I know like the face you must have made when you heard her say like Demeter, Persephone, and cyborgs. Because the face you were making is, oh, this sounds like the only book Dom has ever read. Because it's like me to a T of all of my favorite like genre tropes.
I mean,
Really?
I was
Oh my
mostly
god.
having a revelation because I have a project I'm working on that has some very different take, but very similar, like born out of me working through emotions
Mm-hmm.
and it being
Yeah.
functionally me, but also very different. I go with zombies and vampires instead of mythic
Instead of
retellings,
gods and
but you
gods and
know,
cyborgs.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that whole like, oh, hey, this is a I mean, all writing has a piece of the author in it,
Of
but
course.
like, that idea of, oh yeah, this is me working through some shit, which has made it difficult to work on sometimes, which is why
Right.
it sat for so long. But yeah.
Yeah.
I can relate to
There
that.
there is a infamous fight that Shirley and I we should call it a fight that we got into last
Really a
year.
fight.
It was a spat where I said I will only watch an animated feature if there is either a robot or a cyborg in it. So
Ha!
that was on Shirley's episode. That was like right before Shirley's
Yeah.
interview. But yeah,
That was like neck deep in Encanto at the time.
oh, that is true. But yeah,
And I
that's
was like
chat.
bemoaning the fact that Dom was refusing to watch it
Still haven't seen it.
functionally.
Still haven't seen it. But yes, gods and cyborgs, as chat pointed out, my two favorite things.
God. Yeah, honestly.
Because they're two
Damn.
reflections of two elevated forms of humanity that are reflecting as we're all talking about, like what's really going on
Yeah.
with us at the present time. You know what I mean? Working out some
Yeah.
some shit through
Yeah.
these like
And,
human
you
approaching
know,
but non-human characters. We could talk cyborgs all night if
and obviously because, this is actually, although it has nothing to do with higher education, it's technically a sequel to the graphic memoir because it comes after, coming pretty close to my own mortality through the open heart
Mhm.
surgeries and that sort of thing. So the presence of my own mortality and my daughter suddenly being almost an adult
Mhm.
is hitting me simultaneously.
Yeah. Well, I think that actually leads into the last of like the kind of big questions we want to ask. And it's kind of
Okay.
about in many ways like your relationship with higher ed, but I think a lot of people that that we know and both we've had on the show's relationship with academia in general. And so I guess this question is if we just tore the ivory tower of academia down, what would you like to see built in its place?
I think where I differ from a lot of people that I've encountered in online
Mm-hmm.
groups is that I don't feel like we're at the point yet where we need to tear the whole thing down.
Mm.
I think that there is still a way for us to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And that personally, in my own experience as a student, and I'm a high school dropout.
Mm.
So who went through the whole California system of community college, then Cal State, then UC, and finally got my PhD. So personally, as a student, both personally and professionally, I gained so much
Yeah.
out of the system that was built, you know, pretty much by Clark Kerr in the 60s with that whole tripartite system that I think we can salvage it. And I don't want to see things that I was able to do for myself from this lost high school dropout
Mm.
to
Mhm.
a tenured professor. I don't want to see personal and professional opportunity go away for people. And I realize that we we are close to the point
Mm-hmm.
where it's unsalvageable. I
Mm-hmm.
realize that we are in a dire moment, uh, particularly with employment for graduating PhD, heck, employment for graduating BAs.
Yeah.
But I also even as a community college student, have never looked at college as a job factory.
Mm-hmm.
I always looked at it as this is an opportunity where I can develop myself and learn things that I'm passionate about and learn what I'm passionate about. And at the time, I think I'm one of the last generation that was able to go through
Mm.
that with relatively little debt. And, well, I'm surprised I got a job. It was kind of startling to me, but that actually did go on, and with which was the original plan by Clark Kerr in the 60s, was that this would repopulate the ranks of the faculty as the student body grew. And I think I'm one of the last people who went through that whole channel of opportunity, um, before it started going haywire, and
Mm.
uh, grad students and undergrads were getting into debt, and then people with advanced degrees were not getting jobs and having to work without benefits, and even the people
Mhm.
who ended up in tenure track jobs, which is where I ended up, but I also ended up in a broken, toxic system where people basically eat each other,
Mhm.
because it's a bunch of mice in a cage with a single piece of cheese. And while all of that is bad, I think what we had was valuable enough that it's worth trying to fix. So I would fix it.
That was a great answer, especially with like the like historical context of, if I follow that correctly, like the California like state school system. Is that what you were describing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the guy
Mhm.
who created that, the chancellor of Berkeley, of the UC system, he was on the cover of Time for creating that.
Mm.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it influenced the structure of state systems all across the country.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer, and like detailed answer. I respect that a lot.
Yeah, I do have a lot of mixed feelings about academia because, like, I did my BFA in creative writing, so like, I knew going in it wasn't like one of those degrees, but that's also how I like fully discovered folklore
Mhm.
and like was able to meet the Folkwise crew before it became Folkwise, and so it's
Mhm.
like college as a place to be in an environment of learning, and not just a machine for the job market. I think is something that is valuable to preserve in some way or form.
Yeah, I'm one of the few people I know that don't by default discourage people from going into PhD programs, especially in things like folklore and the humanities. What I tell
Mhm.
them is only go if it's paid for.
Yeah,
You've got some assistantship, something.
Mhm.
that's what
Be
everyone tells me about
prepared.
grad school.
Be prepared to live for half a dozen years at the poverty line or below,
Mhm.
but use it as a time where your subsistence is being taken care of to allow you to immerse yourself in something that you're absolutely passionate about. Don't focus on the degree, because it's all about the process. It's not about the degree or whether or not you're going to get a job after, because that's absolutely not guaranteed, and really it never has been.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I will echo what Chad is saying. That's very good advice. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Can we kind of change gears into some more fun questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, first off, what's your favorite cacti to hug?
Huh, where did you read that?
Thank you, sleuths.
I will hug
Highs in all the dark corners.
any. This is when I returned to California. I miss California like you would not believe.
Hmm.
I stayed in California from not just birth, but from conception through my early 40s.
Hmm.
And so I never went away to school like a lot of people do. And there was some assumption on my part that other parts of the country, people, the landscape, whatever, was vaguely similar, at least in the US. And I came to Colorado and it's totally alien to me. You know, people here, they like the outdoors just because, not because they need to go out there for their health or to exercise to look good, but they actually want to climb on mountains.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's found out for the first time in my life that snow is not just cold, it's wet. Had no idea.
Mm.
I mean, I was completely this clueless Angelina about what living with a winter was like. And I can tell you I hate it. So when I do get to go back to Los Angeles, um, the landscape, which when I was there, used to consider was kind of ugly. It's brown. It's flat for the most part. There's a lot of asphalt and mid-century cheap architecture. Um, and I realized that suddenly it was beautiful because it was where my roots still were.
Mm.
And I, brought a succulent to Colorado and put it on my porch, and that was such a bad idea. Um,
No.
because in Colorado, it can be 70 in the morning and snowing at night,
Yeah.
vice versa. And in California, forgot that cacti grow like bushes. I mean, they're like full trees.
Hmm.
So any
Mhm.
cacti that is just persisting and huge, not like what I'm used to seeing here, I will go up to and just gently give a kind of a COVID hug.
Yeah.
Mm.
And, because realize I miss it so much. And I don't really know if I'll ever be able to go back and live there.
Hmm.
So it's a really
Mm.
poignant sort of thing. It's to realize that roots are a very real thing and that there is such a thing as distinct culture to where you're from that you kind of take for granted. When I first got to graduate school, actually, I forget who I was sitting with. Lisa Gabbert was one of them, and I can't remember who the third person was, but we had just met each other, and we said, okay, think of a word that describes other person, each of the other people, one word. And both of them said to me, Los Angeles. I had no idea that could be possibly mean? Now I know what that means. So, yeah.
Other than cacti, what from Los Angeles are you the most homesick for?
Being able to dress not for function.
Hmm.
Although I must admit that I do like the collection of hats and wool coats that I've developed.
Yes. Yes.
I
Oh yeah.
refuse to dress in the sort of lumpy, functional hats and coats that I often see around me. I will still wear a too thin coat if it matches the rest of my outfit.
Oh, I respect that.
That's such a mood.
That is a mood. That is a big mood.
That is
Um,
such a mood and a half.
so I miss uh, the pretty much endless summers,
Mm-hmm.
um, the dry heat. What else do I miss? Hey, I miss the freeways. You know what's different I
Ooh.
found about California freeways and highways, at least in Colorado, is that I am not at all afraid of driving on the freeways.
Hmm.
I am terrified of the highways here. Um, and
Hmm.
one of the big reasons is that freeway in California is extremely well lit at night.
Oh.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Here, you can go miles of winding, scary road with nothing but reflective markers. And I don't understand why they would do that. And I've asked people, why are the highways not lit at night? People tell me light pollution. And I look at them with this baffled expression because light is not a pollution, it's safety. So you'd rather see the stars than have people die, is what you're telling me. Oh yeah, I miss the freeways.
What like a true like Angelina answer to say freeways? That's iconic. You like I don't know. Your Randy Newman would be proud of you. It's a very good answer. Um how next question, how is BS the path for setting your genius right brain free?
Huh? I think we've all had those moments when something is due, an essay or a paper, in a ridiculously short amount of time, or it's ridiculously short because we've put it off and put it off and put it off. And so
Oh, couldn't be me. But go on.
we overfuel ourselves with caffeine or choose your substance,
Uh-huh.
and we stay up too late with our minds racing, and we write and we write and we write. And for me, even though I dislike the process of writing, I find sometimes my thoughts don't cohere until I'm typing.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, and you don't have time to proofread it, although you should. Not enough of my students do.
Mm-hmm.
But you turn it in a little bit scared, and you get the best grade of your life because something about that panic, that lack of time, turns off the proofreader that comes too soon. Now, proofreading and editing should always come after you've spit something out.
Yep.
And too often the inner critic, we have too much time, is too loud and makes our brilliance into hobbled, overworked phrasing. And I think that when we're basically bullshitting, sometimes what we're accessing is we find we really did pay attention and read, and we thought we didn't retain
Mm.
any of the things that were preparing us for that moment. And suddenly material makes sense and the connections are coming. And so I think getting yourself in a BS state of mind allows you to access that state of flow that they talk about,
Yeah.
and that man with the name I can't pronounce is famous for. Um, but so when you're connected to that, your best insights will come out. And then hopefully you have the time to turn the inner critic back on, take out the worst of the bullshit, and come up with something that's actually both brilliant and polished.
God, wouldn't that be nice?
It took me to like the, I don't know, 20th grade. It took me like deep into my PhD to learn the thing you just described, but that resonated with me so hard. Yeah,
God,
that's how I survived. That's how I made it through. You just got to leave
I
yourself enough
fully,
time to fully BS, and then get serious about editing. Or at least that worked for me. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, fully. I've submitted papers like right at the deadline, fully BS'd. And one memorable time, like in class, the professor was like, well, because it was like the first submitted writing thing we had done that semester. And she was like, oh, well, as you can see, I have some very high standards. And I'm looking at my grade, and I'm like, then how the fuck did I get an A?
Proud of you, Shirley.
I'm like, my dude, how is this occurring?
That's incredible. One more question, then go into our game. Does that work for you,
Right?
Sandra?
Yeah.
Uh, okay, last one. What's the most memorable scarification that you documented while doing field work with Black Greek life organizations?
Haha. Actually,
Scarification.
the most memorable was something that I did after the dissertation was over that was supposed to be a continuation of the project
Mm-hmm.
and never got finished because of the whole IRB thing. But I decided that once I had documented the Black Greek letter organizations, um, which was another instance of something I didn't understand and didn't think was beautiful, and by the end of it, just had such a nuanced appreciation for different kinds of scars.
Hmm.
And it's something that later in life helped me to really fully embrace my
Hmm.
heart surgery scar.
Yeah.
But decided I was going to document the sort of neo-tribal piercing communities adoption of branding,
Yeah.
and I went to an intensive class taught by Fakir Musafar, who was one of the early people who was doing, white people anyway, who was doing things like piercing and, hanging on hooks and that sort of thing. And he gave this class where we learned both branding, stamped kind of branding, and the kind that is most infamous now for being the one they used in Nexium,
Oh yeah.
the cauterizing pen, and also burning with incense.
Mm.
Um, and to do that, you both had to do the class, you both had to perform each type of branding, but you had to also allow yourself to be the subject of each type of branding.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved having it done to me.
Mm.
Um, you know, I have no doubt that the people in Nexium were traumatized, but it's all about state of mind and consent.
Yes.
And especially the incense one, where they take a thick stick of Tibetan incense, glue it to your skin, and then light the end of it and let it burn down into your skin,
Wow.
with people blowing the smoke away as it burns down. You have this incense scent along with the burning skin, and the feeling of your skin getting warmer and warmer and warmer until it burns was the most intensely, beautifully aesthetic experiences that I've had. So yeah, that one was memorable. But I appreciated the cauterizing pen enough that I later went out and had another one done and
Mm.
had my original one redone. They both unfortunately faded
Mm.
because I don't have the genetics uh, that the black men do for having the scars that turn into these beautiful sculptural
Yeah.
works of art. But even but like like education, the process of it is something that's wonderful to be on the receiving end of.
That's excellent. Yeah, great. And
It's so
chat
cool.
chat is talking about how they respect that so much. Uh so bring us home as promised. And I know you've seen the show before. We've got a last activity. I would like to ask you one final question, and that is, have you ever made a tier list before?
No, but I've watched them.
You ready to make
One
you ready to make
time.
your own tier list?
I am. What is my tier list?
Okay, we found sometimes we make a tier list for the person. Sometimes we find a tier list then we go, "Oh, they are the person that has to do this. They are the only person who can do this tier list." So if you haven't already hit watch stream on Discord, please do that.
Okay. Let me make my Discord screen
Make your
bigger.
Discord screen bigger. Yep. You can also click the window too.
Uh, okay.
You
All right. Ultimate colors? No.
Yes, Ultimate Colors tier list. We found a tier list of colors, and as you Sandra, even in these like couple of hours we spent with you, have both hot takes about colors and are like an expert at using and combining colors. The assemblage, which I guess is becoming the theme of the show tonight. We could think of no tier list better than just having you rank the greatest colors. And this, of course, is going on a scale from S to D, S being a grade higher than 100% masterclass. D is barely passing. And I know there's a lot of them. So I will just fire them off and you tell us where they're going on this tier list. Are you ready to rank the colors?
Okay. I have a method. I would like to rank colors.
Okay.
So tell me what color and I'll tell you.
Well, let's start at the top here, and I know you already brought it up and I like smiled. Let's start with cyan.
Okay, that's definitely an S.
Knew it. Starting this off strong.
Straight to S.
What about sky blue?
Sky blue would go right below it in A.
Okay.
Consider them together.
Got it. This is funny because we've been talking about Los Angeles so much. This next one is called Dodger Blue.
Ooh,
Uh,
I like that.
Not a sports fan. I miss the smog more than the Dodgers. So let's put that in D.
in what?
D.
Did you say B?
D.
D. Okay.
Oh
Excellent.
my.
We love it. And someone is saying anything Dodger, we need to create an F tier. I know you're a Diamondbacks fan. I know that's why you're saying that. Next is blue.
It's blue. It looks purple to me.
The next one's called purple. This is called blue.
Okay. I would put it right below sky blue. Right below.
Oh,
sky
right
blue.
top of B, not middle of A. Okay, got it. And then next is purple.
And that would be next to blue.
Behind blue?
Yeah. I find that purple and blue or straight blue are my least favorite colors to put on my face.
This next one is called dark violet.
Let's put that B next to purple.
Behind purple? Or
Put it, in front of blue.
in front of blue. Nice.
So it's not that I'm ranking it above blue and purple. It's that that's the order I think they should be seen in.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that it almost seems more like a palette collection than necessarily a ranking.
If that's what we're doing, this is a perfect culmination of your episode.
Okay.
Next up, fuchsia.
Okay, fuchsia is an A. I'd put it a couple of spaces away from sky blue.
I can only put it here for now, but we can build out A. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Okay.
Next up is deep pink.
Okay. Deep pink is a B, but separate from the first three colors.
So it's the bottom of
Yeah.
B here. Okay.
So actually, now that I look at it, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up is this ruby pink.
Let's put that in C.
C. Okay. And then this is like a crimson.
Let's put that next to ruby pink and
Like behind ruby pink here.
actually it before blue.
Before blue. Ooh, okay. Okay. And then next up is red.
C.
C. Top of C, bottom of C.
Bottom of C.
Bottom of C. Okay. This is we're getting to pastels now, so this is pastel red.
Right next to the regular red.
Right next to the regular red. It's kind of like that's
Yeah,
an apple, that's a guava.
Those three together.
Yeah. It's like I can't describe what I'm looking at, but it makes perfect sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that is correct.
I agree. Especially B looks beautiful so far. Pastel orange.
Next to pastel red.
Next to pastel. Okay. Okay. Pastel yellow.
Oh, no, that's wrong. Let's put it in D.
Bottom of D or top of D?
Okay, I'm wrong. Bottom of B.
Now bottom behind deep pink or in front of deep pink? Behind it?
No, I'm wrong. Bottom of C.
Bottom of C. Okay. Next up, pastel yellow.
I would put that bottom of A.
Bottom of A. Okay. 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 Pastel green.
next to cyan.
No, let's go.
Ooh. Oh
Ooh,
yeah.
exciting. What about the pastel cyan?
Pastel cyan next to Dodger blue.
No, oh, at the bottom. Damn, ruthless. This nice pastel blue next.
In between Dodger blue and pastel cyan.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Pastel purple.
In front of Dodger blue.
Got it. That's probably my favorite color. Um, next, pastel pink.
Let's put that bottom of A.
Bottom of A. Okay, okay, okay. God, this is so exciting. Orange red.
Ooh, I would say put that in the number 2 position on C.
Yes, right there.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. Um, next is orange.
Put that before pastel red.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Next up is yellow.
Hmm. Bottom of D.
Bottom. Oh, ooh.
Hmm.
I liked how a second ago, yeah, chat pointed this out. The cyans were the bookends, but now we have a yellow at the very bottom. Uh, we've got yellow green.
Oh, that goes between cyan and pastel green.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 spot.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it
And
does. Yeah, it does. Makes
now take that pastel yellow or that yellow
this yellow.
and move it to the bottom of that first row.
The bottom of S.
Yes.
We've done it.
Hmm.
I see that now. I see it now.
Okay, and
Emerald
what is that?
green. This is emerald.
Okay, emerald green should go after cyan.
After cyan. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Shirley, you're getting your life watching this. I love it so much.
God, I'm just boy.
This is called poison green.
Poison green in between the two greens on the top, first two greens on the top row.
You're right here.
Hmm?
Yep. This is
Mm.
medium aquamarine.
After cyan.
Huh.
Damn. It's great. Next, turquoise.
Oh, okay. Take that one that you just put on the top,
Medium or
put it
aqua.
on the bottom next to pastel cyan.
Behind it or in front of it?
Behind it.
Behind it. And take turquoise.
And put it next to cyan.
Yeah. Aha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
See what
someone
it's like to design eyeshadow palettes.
yeah, someone in chat.
Literally.
What did someone in chat say? Oh, that was you. That was you, Shirley. Already prepped for the Folkwise Color Pop collaboration? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Home stretch. Midnight blue.
Midnight blue should go top of B.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it should.
Yes, it should. Here we've got the mustard yellow.
Leave those three on their own row.
Like
And
make an F row. Make it.
yes.
Okay. Add row below. I'm gonna call you F, as is tradition, but something tells me we're not calling it a failure. We're just calling it bottom. And
and then put that color, that first color, in the middle of the two others.
So we go perma brown, mustard yellow, saddle brown,
Yes.
and
Hmm.
you have just created. You've just revolutionized the tier list. It has gone from a method of ranking into for lack of a better term, a palette. But I do think you mentioned cyan. You mentioned cyan earlier, and I'm glad that cyan is like the top corner, and it's kind of like the keystone for the whole puzzle.
It really is. Damn, this is so satisfying.
This is very satisfying to look at.
So now we need to name the palette.
Yeah, what's this palette called?
Instead of the from rank to rank, it's the palette name. You know that thing you do?
I know what you're saying.
Should have something to do with eyeshadow. Wise eyeshadow palette collection.
The Folkwise eyeshadow official the palette collection tier list.
Folk eyes on you.
Folk eyes. Is that what you said, Shirley?
Yes.
I like folk eyes. This is great. We've gone not just. And is there like is there like some truth of like cyans and turquoises and emeralds at the top and like kind of these like browns at the bottom? Is that like even if you were just going strictly ranking, would that also apply?
It's probably frequency of colors I use on my face the most often.
Sure.
I got you.
So I go cyan to yellow most often, then true brights, jewel tones, sunset, natural blues, neutrals.
Yeah. It's wonderful. And yeah, as this could be the most satisfying tier list to look at of all of the tier lists we've had. This is very good. You heard it here, and you know, one day the collab incoming. We've got to make this a reality. So
I mean, I'm the Sephora Squad, and I can pitch it.
yes.
Hey, there we go.
Yes, vote.
Damn.
Coming to a Sephora near you, hopefully manifesting. That means we're at the end of your interview. Thanks for staying on a little long with us too. I know we just like had so many like different I know A, you're on spring break, and B, we just had like so many different activities that we did on this like on this call between the Sims and the interview and this tier list and Shirley's makeup. There was something for everyone in this call. But Sandra, thank you so much for staying with us, and thank you for sitting down and talking to us. I had a ton of fun. I can assure you, Shirley had a ton of fun too.
Oh, it was so good.
Oh yeah, this is great.
Can you put Shirley's face on the screen again? I didn't get to see the reveal.
Yes, give me one.
Oh, yeah.
Give me 1 second to do. I'll cut to my face real quick to set up the dramatic reveal. 1 second. Oh, I gotta kill this. Okay. You ready for the big reveal of Shirley's lip color? Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Boom. What did you end up doing? Is it like totally black? Is it jet black or?
So it's black, and then I put a little bit of the runner-up green on the middle of the bottom.
Hell yeah!
So I figured since it was close enough, and I was all like, you know what? Why settle for one when you could have more than one.
It looks great, Shirley.
Tinkle.
Yeah,
Is there a way that, because I wasn't able to follow the chat while we were uh, talking, is there a way to save the chat so that I can read it at my leisure?
Chat'll show up when we put your interview on YouTube. The chat will show up in that video, like overlaid in like the corner of the video.
Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank you, chat,
we thought of
for
that. Oh, not enough people thank the chat. Very proud of you. I'm gonna go back to regular camera view. Hello, everyone. Hello, chat. Thank you. One thing left, and I've already seen a couple of you do it. The one thing we got to do, is drop some ladders in the chat for Sandra. Sandra, if as they're dropping ladders, as they're giving you a resounding, I don't know, round of applause, round of ladders, ladder of applause. Where can people find you if they want more of you?
sandraposey.net, and that has links to the rest of my presence on the net. And as has been shown by the sleuths, you can apparently find me. I think I am. The middle name makes me both fortunately and unfortunately Googleable.
Thanks, sleuths. Absolutely ladders for Sandra, everyone. And Sandra, thank you so much for a great interview and a great time.
Thank you.